Okay. Hola, hola. What's everybody? Welcome back. We're back. Make sure I got the right stream up. We're live and we're going to do behavior panel right now. They did an analysis of Madeline Soto's mother and boyfriend, and I don't know if it's true or not. I saw somebody post on Twitter that the mother now has an attorney. I don't know if that's true. I don't know where they got that from. I have to look for myself to see. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, getting a lawyer. We've talked about that. But after everything that's been said and done, you know. Hola, 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 hola. Let's see how we're going to do this. I have something else that we could possibly do too. Look, I'm so like, why is it so low? Oh. Something else we could possibly do after. I don't know if we have time. We might be able to squeeze it in before we do the other video we have on the second channel. Audrey Cunningham's family did an interview. But this video is like 2 hours long by behavior panel. But some of you might remember the bar fight. Remember we covered the bar fight? Remember this guy? Let me show you on the screen. In 1 second. They switch over. Remember this guy? The bar fight we covered? His sentencing is today. Chaos told me about this. Victim spoke. I haven't watched it yet. It's about an hour long. That's already over. I don't know if we have time. Maybe we can squeeze it in between the other stream we have. That's if enough people show up over here, because I have no notification, so I need your help. She does have an attorney? I need your help. I need your help, man. So I'm not going to have a notification. So once we're done with this, if you're going to come over with me to the next stream, amazing. If not, forget it. Forget about it. All right, let's check it out.
Today we're going to talk about Madeline Soto. She went missing.
And by the way, oh yeah, so let me do this too. So it's behavior panel, okay, on YouTube. Creative Commons license, all right? So we're allowed to use this stuff. I'm going to put the link, though, in the description, all that good stuff. All right.
A few days ago, and now she's been found. Greg, tell us about the videos we're going to watch.
Yeah, this interview, or these interviews, were conducted by local TV, and this is the mother of this young woman who is missing, 13-year-old who is missing, and the boyfriend of the mother before the little girl's body was found.
Good. So the first question is if I can have your first, your last name, and spell them both out for me.
Okay. Jennifer Soto, JENNIFER SOTO.
Mother.
Mother.
Jennifer, tell me how you feeling right now.
I feel like I can't breathe. All I keep thinking about is, where is she? Is she safe? Is she okay? But we're all a wreck. My entire family is a mess. We're just so worried.
When did you first realize, or when did you file a missing report?
We filed a missing report. We called the police at like 4:45 yesterday, 4:45 p.m. But she actually went missing early that morning, around between 8:45 and 9 o'clock in the morning. She went missing.
And we know the time is different now that the police, it said, I thought it was like earlier than that, right? So that right there is inconsistent.
We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. Sorry. That should be it. Sorry about that.
Oh, you got it.
All right, I'll go first on this one. Right out of the gate, it looks like she's got some kind of neurological disorder, which she doesn't. She's just jiggling her leg. I used to do that on here, and people would say, "What's wrong with Scott?" Because when I jiggled my leg, it looked like I was doing this, looked like I had some kind of disease. But I did, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize it until I watched it, until I watched me doing it. So that's what we're seeing with her, and it's good we're seeing this because as stress rises, the more that foot or that leg jiggles, and we see her start jiggling even more. So this is going to be, as we go through these videos, keep an eye on that. And remember, the more stressed she becomes, the more she jiggles her leg. And we can see her stress level go through the dang roof here at some point, in some parts. And in this one as well, we're seeing compressed lips. We're seeing all the great cues of stress that we look for and teach about. And this is a great example of that. Now, when they start calling the dog and she stops and starts smiling, this tells us so much because not only are we seeing things that we know cause stress, we're not seeing a couple of things. We're not seeing tears. We're not seeing the stress or concern we should be seeing in there. We're seeing what looks to me like fear most of the time. So you could say, oh, she's fearful. What's the matter? What's wrong with her daughter? Where is she? Is she going to be okay? All that. I don't think that's I don't think that's the fear she's looking for, that we're looking for at this point or what we're seeing. So when they finally finish calling the dog and things start quietening down, she quits smiling. She automatically she resets and gets back into that fake sadness she's got on her face. She doesn't even know how to do that. And then when the question starts again, that leg jiggling starts and she starts jumping around again. So let's keep in mind as we go through this, again, I want to stress, watch this shaking because it makes all the difference in the world as far as letting you know what's happening from a perspective of stress on a human as they're going through questioning like this. And there's a reason that she's feeling that stressed. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so same as you, interested first off, is it something about the neurology? Could it be stimming of some sort? And then we get, during her answers, very little eye contact. Her eyes go up. Again, could be something with a neurotype. It is certainly out of the ordinary in this kind of interview situation to not get direct contact, eye contact with the interviewer. So why do the eyes disappear up at this point? Again, could be neurotype, but let's see. The shaking is interesting because
the same pet feeders are for the dog. Is a pet feeder she was referencing?
As you're saying, Scott, when the dog is called, everything stops. Just everything disappears. So that makes me think, to your point, this should go up even further under stress around the dog. Everything goes. The voice change. We heard a voice at the start giving her name and the letters involved with her name and how clear and strong the voice is. When she starts into the interview, that all disappears. So that's really interesting. It makes me think that all of this could be some kind of effect that's being done on purpose. I mean, I don't know for sure at this point, first video in, but it does make me wonder, how are you able to be in this heightened emotional situation and then it stop immediately? Interesting. Oh, by the way, she says we had dropped her off. We had dropped her off. Let's see what happens to that. Greg, what do you got on this one?
First, guys, is a parrot. That's a parrot talking in the background. It's going, saying whatever it's heard over and over and over. The reason she knows how long it's going to last is birds are creatures of habit, and they do the same thing over and over and over. So she's waiting for the parrot to finish. Is the reason.
I thought it was one of them calling the dog.
No, it's a parrot. Parrot going, food, food.
Where did you hear about that? How do you know that?
I just know. I know birds. I've been around birds. I had parrots around my house when I was younger.
And we talked about it. I think it was Vic that shared the story in a members live, that there was this parrot that had actually captured the moments when, I forgot if it was the man that killed the woman or the woman that killed the man. There was the last moments, and what the parrot would do, repeat it. And the parrot would literally say the argument that they had right before somebody killed the other person.
ex-wife had a pet shop and all that kind of stuff. So I'm accustomed to them, and they're repetitious in what they do. So you get to the point where you can predict what they're going to do. That's my best guess, is it's a parrot in the background, and that's what's happening. So let's talk for a minute about grief, because a lot of people are going to say grief. Scott, I posted over in the chat a picture of her face in a still at 39 seconds. If that's not terror, I don't know what is. And it is not what I expect in this situation. I know people are going to say grief does weird things. Grief does do weird things. It slows your cadence typically. And the reason it slows your cadence is because your brain is running on two channels. It's running on trying to answer the question you're dealing with and thinking about what's going on. On occasion, grief will drive you to speed. It will drive you to agitated. When it does, it's for one reason. It's help, help, help. It's not protection of self. I see agitation and single focus at protection and answering the right question. That ain't healthy. That ain't good. My kid is missing. Everything she answers is very specific to that. I'm not going to go into a whole lot other than that, other than to say there are a handful of things missing. The mucous membrane's involvement is missing. She's not cried. She isn't crying. There's no inflamed nostrils. There's none of that you would associate with this. There's that look of terror, that look of when one of the questions is asked. And then if you want to pay attention to her eyes, I want you to start paying attention now, because we always talk about eye movement meaning something. When I ask you to recall something, you go to a place, whether it's visual recall or other. This is kind of dirty and doesn't have enough clarity to be able to say it's visual or what, but she's starting to establish a place she's going for information. I would poke on that a lot. I'd poke on it a whole lot. When she says, there's a lot of shifting of pronouns here, Mark, I agree with you. And she said, we had dropped her off close to the school. Now, we always talk about request for approval being forehead up, and that could mean, hey, do you get me? Are you tracking? In this case, it very clearly is, do you believe me? Because her voice lilts up at the very end and her forehead's up. This is going to be an interesting one. From here, she's got a lot of cleanup for me if I'm going to believe anything she's saying. Chase, what do you got?
Today's video is sponsored by Aura.
Got their sponsor there.
Mile of self-management, self-perception, and maybe she's thinking the news is going to cut this part out. She goes right.
I've thought about that. I feel like sometimes people are doing these interviews and you can see the difference when like they believe they're being recorded versus they think it's not being recorded.
Back to a sad demeanor after that smile again. And there's no mention of the daughter's name here, which is very unusual for innocent people.
This is what bothers me.
Good. So the first question is if I can have your first and your last name and spell them both out for me.
Okay.
It's a dog cat auto feeder, so it wasn't a parrot. Were they wrong?
Jennifer Soto, JENNIFER
Mother.
Mother.
Jennifer, tell me how you feel right now.
I feel like I can't breathe. All I keep thinking about is, where is she? Is she safe? Is she okay? But we're all a wreck. My entire family is a mess. We're just so worried.
When did you first realize, or when did you file a missing report?
We filed a missing report. We called the police at like 4:45 yesterday, 4:45 p.m. But she actually went missing early that morning, around between 8:45 and 9 o'clock in the morning. She went missing. We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. Sorry.
So that is not a parrot. Is that what you guys are saying? That's a pet feeder. It makes that noise. It goes. Whoa, eh. Okay, that's what everybody's saying, right? Oh, it does sound like it's dropping food. Pet gate, feeder gate.
That should be it. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to share.
You share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I know you had conversations with detectives. Not sure what that conversation is, but whichever you feel comfortable sharing, that we'll put the awareness out there.
Yeah, she was spotted walking by the church, by the middle school, on the cameras. They saw her hang out in the parking lot for a little bit and then get up and leave. They didn't see a vehicle or anything else. They just saw her walk away around 9 a.m. heading towards the school, but she never made it.
What has the school said? Have you been in contact with the school?
Yes, that they're doing everything they can. They've given me all their resources. The principals called me. They've looked at their cameras. I don't think they've caught anything on the cameras that's too far away from the sidewalk. Everything is too grainy, so they can't see specific faces. But they've looked. I'm just waiting to hear anything else from them.
Is this normal behavior?
Not at
To
all.
just not show up or call or text or anything?
Not at all, no. She, from time to time, she will leave her cell phone at home accidentally, and that's actually what happened yesterday. She left her phone at home. She went to school. But that happens from time to time. She's got ADHD, her memory. She's very forgetful. So yeah, there's no way to track her right now because the detectives don't have her phone. But this isn't normal behavior now.
I had a buddy, Gary Pachoza. Greg, you've met Gary, and he had a bird, had a one of those gray, what are they called? A gray
African grays, yeah.
African gray.
Yep.
And this thing would call his dog, it would whistle for him. And then it would imitate him being on the phone. When he was talking on the phone, and this bird sounded like him on the dang phone, man. It was unbelievable. It was almost scary because it was like a tape recorder almost, because he would be mumbling, but it was what the bird could hear. And the next dream was he was on the phone in the other room. So you could hear him talking and he go, and laugh like him, the whole thing, man. It was bizarre. Greg, what do you?
That's the thing. The bird, even though this doesn't seem like it was a bird, they're saying allegedly mom's on medication. Maybe that could be why her behavior or whatever is what it is. That bird that witnessed a murder it would literally have like almost the same vocals as the person it was mimicking. It was interesting.
You got.
Yeah, that bird was actually a kind of a godsend because it forced her to re-ramp her story. And you can see her ramp as opposed to, I ask you a question about what happened. What do you expect the person to do? Do you expect them to
Thank you, Rio. Thank you for gifting the membership. Appreciate that.
go right into the story? She doesn't. She does a deep breath. She eye blocks. And she didn't go into what happened. This is body language of preparation to ensure I deliver the story. There's also sorrow and concern when she's talking about not sure what she's allowed to talk about. And she does a left eye accessing again, that thing we saw where her eyes are going up in her head and to the left. Okay, let's keep an eye and see, is that where she goes to create or where she goes for memory? Because we get a really damn good example of where she goes for memory a little bit later. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be different. So it's really interesting to watch. That bounce is going pretty good now. And she's mouth grooming. We always say, as you stress and the inside of your mouth gets drier and drier, we'll groom inside of our mouths to pull away mucus and that kind of thing. And the other thing is the adrenal cycle. Once you start dumping all these chemicals into your system from fight or flight, your body needs air to burn those. And you can see it ramping up. Her mouth is open. There's really, really a lot of oddity here. She does one shoulder shrug and she does a lip compression when she says something about she never made it. This is, look, we always talk about what kind of a person how you talk to a person in interview or interrogation. If I were talking to this person in interview or interrogation, you get very soft. You need to be very soft with this person, reach out, touch her, talk to her and say, help us help you. Let me know what you know and what you don't know. And you get more information doing that than you do by asking really hard questions when someone's missing a kid. There's a couple of times in here, and there's a very narrow band of time in here that she looks very believable and right where she should be. She's got real helplessness. She and we're just waiting, and her eyes go down the right. She's got some lip compression, her brow tips go up and sorrow. That's all the right body language. She also only uses present tense. Her agitation has dropped. Those are really much better signs for her than the first video. So I'll leave this video hopeful that I'm going to see a mother who has questions but not involved as we move through this. Right now, this tail end of this video is a lot better than what we saw in video 1 in the beginning of this one. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree with you. And we're seeing that shaking, maybe let's call it a baseline, until the questions are asked again. Then she's kind of locked down. And when harder questions are asked, she locks down that shaking behavior. Now we're seeing more of an upward tone. And we haven't seen that with any factual questions, like when she called the police or what her name was. Then Greg was talking about mouth grooming. We're also seeing a lip retraction. When the lips go past the barrier of the teeth, this is typically a need for reassurance. And this is happening at the moment that she's saying she never made it. And right at this moment when they're saying, waiting to hear anything else from the school, she's saying that there's a hard single shoulder shrug, prolonged eyebrow raise, kind of seeking approval, or do you believe me? Like Greg said in the first video.
Yo, I couldn't imagine like being analyzed by these guys, because I do all these little things. I don't know, when talking or whatever. I don't know. I just can imagine like the smile or the facial, I don't know, all over the place. I don't know what they'd say about me. I'm just kind of like, damn.
Video, more lip retraction. And one thing that's happening here is that
he doesn't show his teeth when he talks. It's a sign of, I don't know, something.
there's a parent sharing all of the reasons her daughter cannot be found. And this, I think, is highly unusual. And it presents a huge hurdle for me to think that she's wanting to inspire people or help or inspire hope, that there's a way that this can be done. When somebody introduces complexities and challenges like this, I've never seen someone do it who's purely innocent. She's going through all the lists. She left her phone at home. She's got ADHD. The cameras aren't good enough to see anything. There's no way to track her. And still, we're not seeing a mention of Madeline's name at all. And one question the reporter asks is this normal behavior? And this behavior we're seeing here is not normal at all in her.
He makes a lot of really good points.
In the mother here. Granted, there's some unusual stuff, so we'll take a look at a few more clips after this one here. Mark, what do you got?
So I'm the same with you. That blame that she's putting on Madeline around ADHD and forgetfulness is an odd maneuver in this particular situation. I don't like the look of that. Not that I'm against blaming people for stuff. It's just not right for this situation where you're wanting the kid to be found, or you should be wanting the kid to be found, just as you say, Chase. You'd want to be eliminating those things and having more possibility of that person being found, not putting barriers in the way. You're exactly right. Again, we have it. We dropped her off. Second time, we dropped her off. Okay, very clear around that. We dropped her off. Okay, good. You said it twice. Now we know. Now we know you both dropped her off. To your point, Greg, yes, she's breathing, and we get some of these bigger intakes, but I'm not getting the rapid breath of something like panic or concern. And she said earlier that the feeling she had was of I can't breathe. And yet we've got her breathing. She's not having to catch up with that breathing. It's not the panic. So her breathing doesn't match what she's told us is the feeling that she has right now, which I would suggest you saying, oh, I can't breathe. That's a sense of panic. And I'm not seeing panicked breathing at this point. So that's of interest to me. So second video in, I'm possibly more concerned even than I was in the first place. Scott, what do you think?
All right. When he brings up the detectives again, that's when her leg starts shaking. Or when I think it's the first time he brings it up, her leg starts shaking again, and we see her doing that whole bobbing around thing that's happening. And again, this still doesn't sound like a mother who's stressed that her child is missing and could possibly still be alive, and she's worried about what's going on with her. None of that at all. Then more stress mouth with that question as well, or what I call stress mouth. That's just disappearing lips, when your lips disappear literally. And I think Chase, you made a great point, because they go back into her, up under her teeth. She's so stressed at this point. Her voice is calm and normal. It doesn't really change much. It stays almost. There are a couple of cases here in a few minutes where we get to fading facts, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in this situation, her voice stays the same. Her cadence stays the same. The volume stays the same. When you're talking about something this horrific, and as you talk about it, you're realizing the horror of what may have happened. You don't talk normally. You get all worked up. We've seen it 1,000 times on here. When they're being honest, because she doesn't do anything. She doesn't change much at all. This sounds to me like it's rehearsed, and it sounds like she's planned this with her boyfriend, which we're going to see a couple of videos of him in a few minutes. This sounds like she's ready for this. That's why she keeps saying we dropped him off. So that brings a whole other situation into this as well.
On this Facebook post, it said, when asked this morning if other suspects are being considered, Kiss Me Chief Betty Holland replied, no comment. And rumor has it that Madeline Soto's mother has lawyered up now and does not talk to law enforcement, but says yet to confirm. That's just Facebook.
As well, and knowing now that we know now that they've found her, Madeline, and she was, obviously she wasn't alive anymore. So there's a lot going on with this, but I think this sounds to me, it sounds like something she was prepared for. When you're talking to somebody in interrogation, you want to make sure one person's story is different than the other person's story. Same story, but you got to make sure they word it differently and things are said differently. So let's pay attention to that when this guy shows up. Now, the phone being left at the house, she wouldn't have started with, well, she has ADHD and she's really forgetful, so she left her phone at the house when she left. No, you said she left her phone at the house. We can't track her. She has ADHD. That's the second part that you think about, because everything is up front. All the details, all the major things are up front in your brain when you're thinking about what's going on with the situation. You don't go to the details of why first and then say she's left her phone. That's a red flag for me as well. And that single shoulder shrug pointing toward her chin, when she's talking about ADHD, that makes me think she's bringing that up. I don't believe the kid had that either, because of the way the mother's acting. I think they're adding that, and that's why she left her phone. That's why her phone wasn't pinging around where they found her, or when she was with somebody else. Well, we know who did it. So then I'll leave it there. It's so much more, and I'm just be covering what you guys cover.
This is what bothers me.
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to share.
You share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I know you had conversations with detectives. Not sure what that conversation is, but whatever you feel comfortable sharing, that will put the awareness out there.
Yeah, she was spotted walking by the church, by the middle school, on the cameras. They saw her hang out in the parking lot for a little bit and then get up and leave. They didn't see a vehicle or anything else. They just saw her walk away. And
they never saw that. The video that they said they saw was like grainy, which I think she mentioned earlier, but then nobody knew if it was her or not. And then obviously now we know it wasn't her.
Around 9 a.m., heading towards the school, but she never made it.
What has the school said? Have you been in contact with the school?
Yes, that they're doing everything they can. They've given me all their resources. The principals called me. They've looked at their cameras. I don't think they've caught anything on the cameras that's too far away from the sidewalk. Everything is too grainy, so they can't see specific faces. But they've looked. I'm just waiting to hear anything else from them.
Is this normal behavior
Not at
to
all.
just not show up or call or text or anything?
Not at all, no. She, from time to time, she will leave her cell phone at home accidentally, and that's actually what happened yesterday. She left her phone at home. She went to school. But that happens from time to time. She's got ADHD, her memory. She's very forgetful. So yeah, there's no way to track her right now because I have, well, the detectives don't have her phone. But this isn't normal behavior now.
What was the last thing, I guess, the conversation that you two had, you and your daughter?
We spoke about her birthday party. She had a birthday party on Sunday. She had a great time. I couldn't make it because I was working, but she had an amazing time. She was so happy with all her gifts. I told her good night, and yeah, that was it. I wasn't the one who took her to school in the morning. That was my partner. But yeah.
13?
She's 13 years old. Yes.
13, Madeline?
Madeline.
Madeline. What are you thinking right now?
In my heart, I feel like somebody took her. This isn't like her to just pick up and run away, or just not go to school. I don't know what to think.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
We're still seeing some bizarre behavior here. And keep in mind, as we're saying this, none of us are saying that she was involved directly. And that if someone does have guilty knowledge, they could be covering up that guilty knowledge out of self-preservation because they've been threatened, because something else has been threatened to be taken away. So we don't know that yet. And maybe y'all will comment on what we see. Maybe there's some threats going on, or it's just self-preservation. So we'll see.
Yeah, some people have speculated that maybe mom. That's seen all kinds of crazy. I don't know if it's crazy, honestly, because who knows? Nobody really knows, right? But I mean, I've seen things people think like maybe mom somewhat had a feeling and ignored, or there was rumors online or speculation that the mother had known as far, I don't know, or that the girl had told her, but we just really don't know. I mean, I've seen all kinds of things online. I don't know what to think. I did think the mother was sus from the beginning as far as like the timeline. A little bit her behavior, her behavior too, but more of the information not lining up and matching up. And that's so crazy. I guess she didn't know at the time. I don't know what to think anymore, but how she was hugging the guy, gave him a kiss, whatever. And it was so weird how the boyfriend was like standing behind. Just, some people think maybe she was afraid of him. It was weird how he was, I'm sure they're going to show it later. He was like walking behind her and stuff and then cracking his knuckles and standing off to the side. I don't know if they did that video as well as I guess it's just this one.
But this shaking still continuing. We see it during the things we see the shaking during the parts that are provable and most likely solid facts. We see the shaking go away anytime somebody's asking details about Madeline going missing. I'm always uneasy personally when I see more fear than grief or sadness. And I'm even more uneasy when I see that fear surrounding the story of the disappearance of the child. And to add to this, when I see that a reporter has to remind somebody to mention the child's name and remind them also that they're supposed to talk about what they think happened and that they want the child to come back home. The reporter's having to kind of prod and prompt this. It's a lot more concerning. I developed a guide, if y'all remember this.
And if I was the reporter, this is the one thing I was kind of I don't think he asked her. The reason we found out that she claimed she saw her that morning is through the police. She had told the police that she saw Madeline that morning. But the reporter never asked. And I would have been like, did you see her that morning? Because she She said she saw her the night before. She said good night to her. She didn't go to the birthday party. And the other thing too about the girl supposedly had messaged somebody saying that I forgot how old she is, 13, is it? 13, she was going to run away. You know? And now coming out with the disturbing details that's come out that she was being abused for 2 years or something. And the photos that were found on the boyfriend's phone, pictures and videos, graphic pictures and videos of what we could assume is her and him. Guy had it on his phone.
For the media on how to ask questions and what questions to ask during these interviews like this. This guy has literally everything that you would need word for word and has prompts to get somebody like this to talk a lot more. Innocent people can be less talkative too, and it's helpful to get them to start talking as well. So I'll link that down there if you guys are all right with that. I'll throw it in the...
I probably did that myself. Body language tactics. I don't know. I'll check it out later. I'll probably use that some other
video description. Scott, what do you got?
All right. After the reporter says, "What was the last conversation you two had?" Again, this is fear. It's not the classic expression of fear, but I always say fear looks like a calm surprise because your eyes are open, your mouth is open, and your nostrils flare a little bit because you're waiting to see what's going to happen. You know, you've been shocked, and then what's happened? It's almost like a lengthened amount of shock, and it just lasts for a little while. So, and I asked Melinda Ozell about this as well. She's a big micro expression specialist, and she said, yes, that's what she's seen as well. We talked about some other things, details of it, but we both agreed that was fear. So yeah, Chase, that's spot on. So when she answers again, that leg goes jiggling and she starts bouncing around like she's on one of those old covered wagons in a Western movie or something. It's a lot there. So she's getting a lot of stress from that question. And then this is where the fading facts come in at the end of that second answer, when she starts talking as she's speaking. When we talk about fading facts, we're talking about someone who is giving you information that's supposed to be a correct answer or the answer. And as they get quieter toward the end, it's because their brain's saying, we shouldn't be doing this. In other words, we shouldn't be doing this, man. This is not true. So they'll get quieter as they go and down toward the end. So listen for that. We'll hear that a few more times in here because that's classic. That's not one cue shows you that someone's lying or telling the truth, but this is when you start grouping these things together, you can start making decisions about what you're seeing. If you have a whole lot of things that may suggest deception, then you can feel pretty good about saying that's probably deception, because there's no way to know for sure by one cue that someone is being honest or telling you the truth. That mouth chewing adapter shows up where she's chewing on her mouth and she's doing mouth grooming again, then stress mouth and the leg goes up. This is just everything she's dealing with here is causing stress. Every question causes stress. Everything she's asked to talk about causes stress. Every time they go even just this deep into it, that leg starts jiggling and she starts jumping around. So anyway, so I think something's up here. I think there's a lot more going on than I think anybody is aware of at this point outside of this investigation so far anyway. But then again, we hear when she says, I don't know what to think. We hear fading facts there as well. Mark, is that all of us?
Yeah. So yeah, fear is an interesting expression. You're right. It's very similar to surprise. And often, when you're looking at those emotions, it's the one that people will conflate. And I think the reason for that is, in my belief and understanding, is that fear has to be very, very subtle, because you don't want to show the predator that you're fearful, because it will trigger an attack. It has to be subtle enough that the people around you would detect the fear, but not so big that anything, outside of that close distance would see the fear. I'm going to go even further than fear, though I think you're absolutely right, Scott, and obviously Melinda is absolutely correct, but I'm going to go for its terror. I think we're seeing terror in the face, and I'll say in the next video why I think it's, extreme fear. It's fear.
I'm really curious what they're gonna have to say about the boyfriend.
But
almost the boyfriend almost showed more emotion, even though we know he's the perpetrator, even though he hasn't been charged yet with this stuff, as far as I know, he's still charged for the pictures and videos that are found on the phone, but not actually murder or whatever else.
At an extreme, and
The guy even pulled out a tissue at one point. It's just
it's still subtle because the signal has to be just for the people around, not big enough for the predator to see. Now, she has a theory, which is someone took her. So that's good that she has a theory, but then she changes that and she says, I don't know what to think. And that's, I think, the thing that you were getting fading facts on there, Scott. So that's interesting. She's got a theory, and that's a plus point for her. And then the theory gets taken away with fading facts. So she's backpedaling.
You're right. Reality Win says, no, grandma had her birthday party. Yeah, I just saw them saying that on Facebook. It was at grandma's, I guess.
On it a little bit. And then we get a new piece, a new story. I wasn't the one who took her to school. Well, last two videos, we dropped her off. And now she's not any part of it. The story is changing significantly here. Why might that be? There's a lot going on in this third one. Is that all of us or Greg?
Nope, me still.
Yeah, Greg.
So I got the same thing, Mark. I think it is terror. I think it's a mild version of terror, but I think she's shocked and terrified by the question. Shouldn't be. What's the last thing you said to your daughter? Seems like a normal question. But then that agitation comes back. And we can all recognize shock, fear, terror in faces because, as you guys said, they're more subtle, but we all can recognize them. That's Darwin started that long ago. She does a lack of certainty with that single shoulder shrug, and then she goes to hesitant cadence, really hesitant. Almost loss of verbal fluency at I told her good night. Well, hell, you should remember the last thing you said to somebody like that. That's awkward for me. Yeah, and that was it. What? You say that after you say the last words you said to her? And here we're back to the truth needs no support, but lies love a crutch. She's going to continue to qualify. I wasn't the one who took her, Mark. She says, now we have a first person singular declaration of innocence. Now I'm going to drop back to video 2, where I saw things that look real. I saw things that like hopelessness and fear and sadness and that lip compression. And what did she say then? We are waiting. Let's keep that in mind. The only time I saw anything genuine was we are waiting. And there was a lot of fear and that kind of thing around it. Now she's saying, I didn't do it. It was my partner. And that kind of dropped off. And then, but yeah, a lip compression. There's a whole cluster of red flags right in there. This alone, this piece right here, going back and looking at where she was showing sorrow about we are waiting, now makes me concerned, now makes me think. And Chase, to your point, could it be that she has a suspicion that her partner did something? Could it be that she knows her partner did something? Could it be she was involved? We can't tell that. What we can tell is there's some behavior shift that indicates something is guarded and something is shielding. And again, I'm going to mention, I don't see any grief or sorrow except for writing that we are waiting piece. I don't see snotty nose. I don't see teary eyes. I don't see grief muscle. I don't see concern in places I expected. It's just not here. Maybe she's just suspicious, but that's a hell of a lot of disclaiming right in there. And then she's back to internal voice at I don't know what to think and back to that terror. Guys, this one starts to look worse and worse. One little glimmer of hope in the second video now starts to look like something I'm going to look for indicators that there's some kind of collusion going on. That's all I got.
Scott, back with his contempt.
This is what bothers me.
What was the last thing, I guess, the conversation that you two?
So, Mandy has sent me the affidavit that I guess was on Court TV. Now, honestly, this is just really graphic, but it's somewhat it's somewhat the same information as the original report that we had read, but it's just more graphic. I don't even want to. I'll just say that there's pictures and videos, and you can see the child, the private parts and stuff, and the stuff that his private parts. And so that's as far as I'll go. So very, very graphic. The metadata from the images and photographs discovered above shows that in August of 2022, Stephen, did all this stuff. All right.
How you and your daughter?
We spoke about her birthday party. She had a birthday party on Sunday. She had a great time. I couldn't make it because I was working, but she had an amazing time. She was so happy with all her gifts. I told her good night, and yeah, that was it. I was the one who took.
Feel so bad for that girl. I don't even like reading stuff like that because I don't even want to like think about it. But I guess that's the reality. I really wonder what was his reason for killing her. What was his like? What was the? I don't know. Was she gonna tell or something? What made him finally like now kill her? And so again, the metadata just shows from August 2022. We're in 2024 now. So he's been doing this for a while. In the house with the mother there.
I took her to school in the morning. That was my partner. Yeah.
13?
She's 13 years old. Yes.
13, Madeline?
Madeline.
What are you thinking right now?
In my heart, I feel like somebody took her. This isn't like her to just pick up and run away, or just not go to school. I don't know what to think.
Friends, the friends' parents, you've contacted and went through every single person?
Everyone that we know that she knows, we've contacted them all, reached out to them. The parents have gone out to search and look for her as well. And we haven't come up with anything yet.
I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook, Hunters Creek, rants and raves and what have you. Did people say that they were going to conduct some type of like search party or anything?
A lot of people have asked me to volunteer, like if there is one, if they can do one. I have people passing out flyers, going to every store in that vicinity, a gas station, church. I think people were being stopped in the street this morning in front of the school to see if they've seen anything, if they've heard anything. My family they're going all out right now. Yeah.
I know as a mother, a lot is going on in your brain.
So much.
To bring her back home. What have the law enforcement told you that you are able to share?
I mean, that they're doing the best they can. They've had detectives come out, interview us. They took a piece of her clothing for the canine dog to see if they can sniff her out. I'm not sure when that's being done.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So she's really boiling the air down now, if you can't miss. She's inhaling it more heavily, her mouth's open, all that bouncing and terror in her face. And now she's added batter on deck. She's rubbing her thighs. I don't expect all of that when a person is feeling grief. I just don't. Grief, go back to the McCanns, when you guys beat us up about all the time in the comments, where the McCanns were lifeless and you said that was an indicator that they had done something wrong. No, that's an indicator of grief and their brain is running out of energy and that kind of thing. There is not agitation. Now, there is a part of grief that causes people to go from denial to anger, which she's not in anger. She's not in denial as far as we can tell. It feels like she's just in the moment. She's guarding again. There's a nonsense answer that really does mean something if you listen to her words, but her sentence structure is just really poor. When she talks about people have asked me to volunteer if there is one, what she means is people have called and said, if there is a search, I'd volunteer. Or can you help us organize one? And. Well, here's question number one when somebody says that he missed. Did you organize a search? Are you part of a search? And if she says no, then the obvious why question. There's eye movement now deviation from what she was doing earlier for facts. When she was doing facts earlier, and now she's talking about these people, her eyes are going back to the opposite side of her brain. So something's going on here. Can't tell what until we get further in and we get a clean question. But let's pay attention to this. I don't know where this is almost telegraphed. Chase, you say it most of the time. Where's my baby? Let's get out there. Any of you, if you're missing a dog, would be, where's my baby? Let's go get this, much less a human being. And she's just been handed the question, what would you like us to do? They didn't ask that, but she says people have asked, they've volunteered, but she still doesn't bring it up. She still doesn't say, where's my baby? There's still no grief. There's still no agitation there. The agitation's all about protection and about protection of facts. Every fact that she's bleeding is one that's being pulled out of her. Now, does that mean she did something? No, but it means this is a hell of a lot of red flags that would certainly get my attention talking to her, and I would start pulling and pulling and pulling. And when
the GoFundMe, let's see, the GoFundMe raised $16,000. And it also says here that apparently she was laid to rest March 6, 2024. And the GoFundMe, Stephanie Soto is the mother. She thanked everybody and said that my family and I had already made arrangements when the offer was made. March 6, our precious Maddie was laid to rest in a private service surrounded by family and close friends.
When I say pulling, I'd be real friendly about it until I wasn't, until there's a reason to have some kind of case. Because remember, you're just interviewing this person and you're trying to get to facts. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So I'm interested in the blink rate here because it seems super
What
low.
blink rate?
Yeah, wobbling rate. Yeah. Well, I think I counted one. I think I did count one. So we can, we can give a one on that. Chase, I think you're right in suggesting that often it's the case of a low blink rate is hyperfocus. So let's take that as let's go with that idea because I think it's a good idea. So then we go, okay, so what is she focused on? What is she so hyper focused on here? Now we've got this big eyebrow raise with that as well. Now, talking about terror and fear, there are some indicators in fear. Fear, you want to let a lot of information in there. You want your blink rate to be low, so you're getting that information in. Also, the eyebrows are a good way to signal to other people in the room that there's a threat in the room. There's something, there's a predator around. So, high focus because of no blink rate. Eyebrows up, potentially, could be approval, but potentially not approval, could be signaling to others there's a risk in the room, there's a predator in the room right now. I don't know whether there's somebody else in the room at the same time as this interview or in the certainly a parrot around and about. And something has disturbed the parrot. Greg, it sounds like you know parrots better than I do.
Parrot is disturbed.
But maybe something else in the house has disturbed the parrot and the parrot wants feeding. Or maybe the parrot just, shouts out like that at a certain time of the day. I would be interested.
I got to analyze the parrot's calls, squawking calls, even though they said it's not a parrot. It's actually one of those pet feeders.
What else is happening? What else is in the room? Who else is in the room or in the vicinity at the time? Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, we know now that she uses this single shrug as a social acceptance gesture since we saw it really pronounced when she was mentioning that Madeline has ADHD. So she's socializing the issue here in this clip of having spoken to everyone. So she's introducing more difficulty here and complexity again, introducing it. So saying they've literally contacted everyone possible, there's no more people that can be contacted, which insinuates nothing more can be done. She's also adding here that people have searched for her. She talks about her family going all out, which is very different from asking for help. In many ways, this can be seen as something that's lessening the need for any assistance or help from people. And I'm surprised by this point there's not one mention of her name unless it was directly asked of her, and no mention of getting Madeline back home. And essentially, she's saying that all that can be done is either happening or has already happened. And at this point, I would assume she most likely, if I was doing this interview, obviously I'm not in charge of the questions, but based on this, I would assume she very likely knows the location or disposition of Madeline. And I would say that in likelihood, that's a high likelihood. Scott, what do you got?
I agree with you 100%. And I'll tell you what I think at the end of this thing, because it's, anyway. So I agree with you guys. And Greg, going back to your point, but for all of us, if somebody we loved was missing, they wouldn't be able to interview us because we'd be out. So where's Mark? I don't know. He left. He says he's going hunting for his kid. Where's Che? Then we'd be gone. There'd be no interview. They'd be trying to find us, but that's what would be happening. You don't sit around and say, well, and I think your shoulder shrug went up at that first part because she really doesn't. I think it scares her. I think you're right, Chase. I think that part where at the beginning there where she says, where he's asking about the people who are coming by and stuff, and that shoulder goes up. No, man, she doesn't want to answer that. Of course she's unsure, but she's really insecure about that. We're seeing a whole lot of insecurity here, man. We're seeing somebody who's afraid. We're seeing fear. Why would we be seeing fear other than being afraid for your daughter, Madeline, who is never named in this? Never, not once. So let's think about that for a second. Why would she be doing that? Why would she be pushing away from everything? Why isn't she out hunting for that child? Why isn't she trying to find people to help her hunt for that child? Why isn't she saying, look, hang on just a second, if they do get her for an interview, and say, look, here's what she looks like. Bang, here's a picture. Please go out and look. I think that, but about the ADHD, I think that's not true as well. I don't think that's true. I think that's why we're seeing that shoulder go up and that chin go toward the shoulder. I don't think the kid has that. I could be wrong. She could have been diagnosed or whatever. I don't think she has it. And her blink rate, like you were saying, Mark, it's almost gone here. Going back to your point, Chase, we know that when someone's afraid of something, your brain goes, we need to keep an eye on that. So your eyes get a little bit wider and you don't blink. And when you do blink, they don't blink completely most of the time. So I think there's a whole lot going on around here in this situation. We're seeing stress mouth. She's thinking about not getting in trouble. That's what she's thinking about. That's what it's looking like.
Gotta make sure I don't blink too slow, but then not too fast either, like a right balance. And do full blinks, not half blinks, or else that could indicate something. We'll try to appear normal.
To me so far. So, and Greg, to your part about collusion, you damn straight. I'm with you on that. I think there's a lot going on here that hasn't been brought up yet, maybe in the investigation, probably. I'm not sure. All right, we good?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good lean, Greg. Mark, it's very pro.
Well,
base, that wasn't much of a lean.
I'm just warming up.
I was playing it cool. That's what I do.
The friends' parents you've contacted and went through every single person?
Everyone that we know that she knows, we've contacted them all, reached out to them. The parents have gone out to search and look for her as well. And we haven't come up with anything yet.
I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook, Hunters Creek, rants and raves and what have you. Did people say that they were going to conduct some type of search party or anything?
A lot of people have asked me to volunteer, if there is one, if they can do one. I have people passing out flyers, going to every store in that vicinity, a gas station, church. I think people were being stopped in the street this morning in front of the school to see if they've seen anything, if they've heard anything. My family they're going all out right now. Yeah.
I know as a mother, a lot is going on in your brain.
So much.
To bring her back home. What have the law enforcement told you that you are able to share?
I mean, that they're doing the best they can. They've had detectives come out, interview us. They took a piece of her clothing for the canine dog to see if they can sniff her out. I'm not sure when that's being done.
Do you have any inkling where she possibly could be? Like if you would say, okay, last time I went to work and came back, she was at James' house or Sabrina's house, and maybe I forgot to check that house, or she played at this park one weekend, maybe she went back there or something like that.
We've looked everywhere we could have thought, and anywhere she would have been. She would have known to wait for me at the school. But we did check where if she could have walked. My mom's office is close to the school. We checked there. We checked the walking paths that she could have taken. We've checked all of her friend's house. I think we've checked everywhere I could think of, honestly.
What do you think? Oh gosh, I just had it tip of my tongue. What was she wearing?
She was last seen wearing a green hoodie, black shorts, white Crocs, a black JanSport backpack with gray hibiscus flowers on it. That's about it.
And you said this is not like her.
Not at all.
To even run away, an argument, anything like that to provoke her?
She's never done anything like this, no. And we haven't had any arguments recently to have this outcome.
What school?
Hunters Creek Middle School.
Tom, any questions?
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, it's interesting. He asked this question, and she kind of
Lily posted this shit on Twitter. It's kind of funny. I mean, I didn't even think about that. Lily goes, she said, let's just take a moment to process the fact that the behavior panel identified a pet food dispenser as a parrot. And then Maria commented under very confidently too.
to seize him off with that narrowed eyes of like, why are you even going down that route? We've done everything. I don't know why she's seeing him off this territory. Now, there could be all kinds of reasons of why this terror and why this concern of like, don't even investigate that, because there could be fear of more violence towards her, towards other children, family members, or maybe she's involved in some way. I don't know where to go on this one at the moment. I don't have the information as yet on that. But there's certainly something going on. There's certainly something going on, because you would not see that person off the territory of further investigation with that look of almost incredulity as to why you even bothering me with this and going down this route, unless it was maybe a police officer and you're going, look, come on, man, let's get on with this. Let's get out there and look. You're bothersome. You're an idiot. Let's go look.
Today we're going to talk about Madeline Soto. She went missing a few days.
I screwed up. Where were we at?
Terror, but I think she's shocked and terrified by the question. Shouldn't be. What's the last thing you said to your daughter?
When she knows or may know that she's going to waste people's time. I'm not saying she's involved.
Nice point. Didn't think of
we saw that already. I think we saw that already.
it that way.
But I do think there's a very good possibility she knows that a search won't do much. And the reason she's not pleading for help and asking for her return instinctively, which is what I think we should be seeing, is that she has knowledge maybe about where somebody is or what happened to somebody. And at every moment, I would fully expect to see grief or sadness or worry or concern. There's fear. And the fear behavior is specifically spiking in precisely all the wrong places. Right when she's being asked about details, not when she's talking about her daughter being taken. That's when you would expect to see the fear. That's why context is so critically important when you're looking at behavior like this. And her breathing, she's starting to try to lock that down. My wife is a classically trained ballerina, and they have some training. I don't know what it is, but it's like up there with the SEAL teams on controlling that stuff. I can't get my wife's breathing rate when she's trying to hide it from me. And she's getting close to this little locking it down. The trouble with locking down your breathing rate when you're under stress and pressure, as Mark would say, is that it's like plugging a hole somewhere where that's going to come out, and it's going to be more exaggerated and more dramatic because the demand for oxygen that adrenaline sends to your body, it doesn't go away. So that's why we saw that big spike here, in my opinion. Greg,
tell us about your ballet thing. You know more about that than we do. Tell us about that.
The ballet thing. Oh yeah, that's me. It fits me perfectly.
From your
Can't
training.
tell.
From your training.
I had some training with that. Sure. Yeah. Do you know why? You know why you're bothered by the word button being
So I shouldn't touch anything
pronounced that way? Because you're
No.
a boomer. Because people under 40 all pronounce it that way. They just do.
Pronounce it button and button.
They've changed the way the pronunciation from like words like Manhattan, button. It's changed over time. It is one of those things. Just like I guarantee you still put 2 spaces between a period and the next word. And
That annoys the hell out of me.
younger people don't. Younger people don't. So the world's changed, Scott, just so you know. And it's okay if I did ballet. I didn't. I just had to say that, Scott.
Yes, you did.
So here's one of the funny things in this. When she first starts off, when people say that is a pause word, and they don't say it when they're out of information. They say it when they're looking for the next thing to say. So they say, if I'm saying then I'm going to say something else. And even Forrest Gump knew when it was time to say, that's all I know about that, but she doesn't. She tries to fill in, and she tries to add something new, and she says, I don't know what to add. Well, you shouldn't add anything. You should just shut up. When you're done delivering the facts you have about this case, to your point, Chase, it's starting to look really, really stinky. If I go back and look at the places I've seen stress, they were around waiting. There was a lot of stress and something odd. Then there was stress around what was the last thing you said to her. There was a stress about where was she or where is she. Those things are all in the wrong places. It should be stress about when did she disappear and that kind of thing, but there isn't. And then if you pay close attention to her breathing and all of the increase and concern in her brow, all of that stuff comes. Her face changes. All of it comes at that one question about, do you know where she might be? Mark, I agree with you. Those eyes narrow, the face twists. This is a deviation from everything we've seen to now. More importantly, she loses verbal fluency and starts to edit as she's speaking. She says, well, she would have waited for me, but we checked close because she was close to where my mom's office. That's just more information that has zero value to what you're asking and where you're going. And then she gets to that the last indicator with the eyes is that intake eye. I'm always saying, and Chase, every one of us except Mark knows from shooting dominant eye, that intake eye gets narrow in people when they're really uncomfortable in the situation, and watch hers get more and more narrow as we go in there. I agree with you. The last seen wearing is a weird choice of words. Who says that? Chase, if I ask you, hey, tell me what your son was wearing this morning. Well, he was last seen wearing. No, that's odd. Nobody talks that way. That's guilty knowledge. And there are 2 other things. Yeah, there's 2 other things that are really interesting to me. I talked about baseline eye accessing. This, down to the gray hibiscus flowers, is a memory thing. It is a memory thing. And she's going boom, boom. She's going to a locked space, but it's exactly opposite of where she's been going when asked questions about how the day unfolded. That's enough reason for me to be agitated and go after more information and try to figure out where the deviations are. And that is a clear, clean, single sensory channel question. It's all about appearance, nothing to do with feelings or look or sound or any of that other stuff. So now we got some deviation in baseline there. The last one that I would be really concerned about is the guy asked a question about an argument where she would have left, and she says, not recently. Not recently. And when she says not recently, she breaks eye contact in an uncomfortable way she hasn't done. The follow-up question is, okay, were you ever in an argument that would have made her leave? 2 days ago? Yesterday? What was recently to you? I would have asked those questions because something may be up that you would uncover with that question. And it's a pretty innocuous when she brought it up. That's all I got. And I don't have any ballet training. Trust me. If you'd ever seen me dance, you would know that.
He shows us all that. Show us a plie. You know, tell us that story about that time you hurt your
Ballet in my life. Don't know.
Plie.
No.
Do you have any inkling where she possibly could be? Like if you would say, okay, last time I went to work and came back, she was at James' house or Sabrina's house, and maybe I forgot to check that house, or she played at this park one week and maybe she went back there or something like that.
We've looked everywhere we could have thought, and anywhere she would have been. She would have known to wait for me at the school. But we did check where if she could have walked.
That's the squint in the eye that said we were like this. Indication.
My mom's office is close to the school. We checked there. We checked the walking paths that she could have taken. We've checked all of her friend's house.
I got an ex that would do that when she lied. She lied all the time. Habitual liar. Still lie to this day. The squint and shit.
I think we've checked everywhere I could think of, honestly.
What do you think? Oh gosh, I just had it tip of my tongue. What was she wearing?
She was last seen wearing a green hoodie, black shorts, white Crocs, a black JanSport backpack with gray hibiscus flowers on it. That's about it.
And you said this is not like her
Not at all.
to even run away, an argument, anything like that to provoke her.
She's never done anything like this, no. And we haven't had any arguments recently to have this outcome.
What school?
Hunters Creek Middle School.
Tom, any questions?
Have this outcome.
What school?
Hunters Creek Middle School.
Tom, any questions? No. Is there anything that you think our viewers would need to know about the way you're feeling, the way the family's feeling, Madeline?
We are desperate for any answers, anything that you could do to help. I'm here for it. Just please, if you see my daughter, just please bring her home. I just hope you're okay, Maddie. I hope you're safe. I hope you're not hurt. I just hope she's okay.
When did you notice that she was missing? Because this was at the beginning of the morning.
She got dropped off in the morning. We did not notice until after school pickup at 4 o'clock when I went to go pick her up, and she wasn't at school.
So we're going in 24 hours now.
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. No word. No text message. No messages anywhere from her. I've looked at all her social medias. I've looked at all her games she could have played with. Any app. No weird conversations. Nothing strange. Everything was conversations with just normal friends or us.
She knows how to get home by herself, as if, like, let's just say, to take a bus or an Uber or something like that. She would know how to get home alone, correct?
I'm not sure. I don't know if she would know how to get home. Maybe, I mean, I'm thinking if someone got in the car with her and if she pointed the way, what roads, she probably could figure out how to get, but like, does she know her full address? I don't think she does.
Which would give me it just puts in my brain that she always comes home with someone.
She always comes home with me.
There's no need for her to really learn. Okay. And you said no time? I think that was everything.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Well, she does ask for help in the end. She does use her name, but it's taken some time getting
Mr.
there. So
Dyer.
a little bit too late from my point of view. I hope you're okay. Lots of upward inflections there. I would like more force within that. If it's a sincere call out to her daughter, that there's the possibility that she could be hearing her, even if she's captured in some way. And then there's a complete change in voice and attitude from being passive, which we've heard of before, to being now and passive and kind of helpless, to being active when she's describing how she could direct somebody the journey home. A really big change. again, we're always looking out for changes. I can't really make head or tail of why that change, but it shouldn't really be there. There's no necessity for a change there. And it's almost like an affect gets dropped for this kind of passive helplessness that we've seen her in, suddenly gets dropped immediately. It's like it's been an act of some sort. I find it very, very odd, these quick changes that are going on. Greg, can you make any sense of it for me?
Yeah, I'm back to what I said in the beginning. When you're grieving, your brain is occupied on another category and you are responding to what's given you. It is not your single obsession to chase. You call it socially focused. I think it's fearfully focused on what this person knows or doesn't know and trying to make sure you're managing that as you go. And I think it is social, but I also think it's fear driven. And I think when you're facing grief, you said it early too, you don't care. I don't care what you think. I want my kid. There's way too much focus, Mark, on what this person thinks is what I think you're seeing. Her intake eye is damn near closed. Now look at that left eye. It's closed down real tight. We have not seen a single tear, not a grief muscle, that arch series of muscles that shows that very little concern. There's no membrane, no mucous membrane drainage. She says at one point we didn't get a text message. Well, you told us the phone was on the counter. How did you expect a text message?
Ooh, yeah, caught on this. Yeah, how you going? You said the phone was there the whole time. The phone was at the house.
So I think she's now just rifling through what she thinks she's supposed to. Feels a lot like she's got a list of things. And then her baseline for visual is not what she's doing as she describes her actions. We just saw what her baseline for visual was, and now she's going somewhere else when she's saying, I did this and I did this and I did this. There's a big deviation when she's talking about games and apps. She's back to that narrowing of the face and that dismissing with her face. And her bouncing is increased. I think she's in circuit overload here. At one point, she can't understand what the guy's asking questions. And then when he throws out that life ring about her coming home with somebody, she grabs at it because it's back to her being able to get connection with the guy again. Again, I'll go back and say grief doesn't agitate. Grief slows. Grief causes you to be more contained and zombie-like. Agitation comes when there's a reason why you're trying to get contact with somebody or to hide something or do whatever else it is in there. And that can be, now that agitation can come out in, I want to find my kid, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing agitation at perception management. Chase, what do you got?
Perception management is what we're seeing for sure. I agree. And I think she's afraid to ask for help. So there's 6 ways that I teach people are driven, and social needs, or the need for acceptance, is one of those, and that's what we're seeing here. Having the need for acceptance means that you naturally have, as a byproduct of that, a fear of tribal retribution or pissing off the tribe. So asking for help and then this information coming out later means that she will face the wrath of her tribe. And that's what I think we're looking at here. They give her the entire floor here to say whatever she wants. And the first thing that we hear, she asks for answers. And we just want answers, not the daughter back. And then she says, if you see my daughter, just please bring her home. If she was taken, I don't think that's what she would say. No confidence in this at all. And just kind of assumes that she wasn't taken.
All right, go forward a little bit.
But then for her thing, we hear more fading facts. I'm trying to add things you guys haven't already talked about.
Hunters Creek Middle School.
Tom, any questions? No. Is there anything that you think our viewers would need to know about the way you're feeling, the way the family's feeling, Madeline?
We're desperate for any answers, anything that you could do to help. I'm here for it. Just please, if you see my daughter, just please bring her home. I just hope you're okay, Maddie. I hope you're safe. I hope you're not hurt. I just hope she's okay.
When did you notice that she was missing? Because this was at the beginning of the morning.
She got dropped off in the morning. We did not notice until after school pickup at 4 o'clock when I went to go pick her up, and she wasn't at school.
So we're going in 24 hours now.
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. No word. No text message. No messages anywhere from her. I've looked at all her social medias. I've looked at all her games she could have played with. Any app. No weird conversations. Nothing strange. Everything was conversations with just normal friends or us.
She knows how to get home by herself, as if, like, let's just say, take a bus or an Uber or something like that. She would know how to get home alone, correct?
I'm not sure. I don't know if she would know how to get home. Maybe, I mean, I'm thinking if someone got in the car with her and if she pointed the way, what roads, she probably could figure out how to get. But, like, does she know her full address? I don't think she does.
Which would give me it just puts in my brain that she always comes home with someone.
She always comes home with me.
There's no need for her to really learn. Okay. And you said no time? He knows everything. All right, the first question is if I can get your first and last name and spell them both out for me.
Stephen Stearns, STEPHAN,
All right, so Stephen, you seem very emotional right now. Explain to us.
I dropped her off. Everything looked fine when I drove away. It's the last time we saw her.
What were the conversations that y'all had in the car when you dropped her off?
Not much. She was asleep for most of the way. Told her have a good day at school when she got out. I love her. She said thanks, love you too. That was it.
And so where do you think she could possibly be? I mean, this isn't, as I was told, this isn't normal behavior.
It is not normal behavior. She's not the type that would just run off. We don't know where she can be. We're scared. We just want her home.
Are you, in a sense, blaming yourself?
It's hard not to.
Why?
I dropped her off early. I could have waited longer. She looked okay. She was walking towards the school when I saw her. It was like any other day, so I went on with my day. It's hard not to blame myself.
Chase, what do you got?
So you'll notice his tone here. Maybe Scott will include a special rendition of this that he was doing off camera here a second ago in our final clip. It's one of finality, though. It's finality. Even his language, if you listen closely, it's all about things being over and done with. He makes an appeal for her to come.
By the way, MSK, thank you for the membership. Appreciate that.
Home, but it carries the same. Listen to this when it comes back on. His appeal for her to come home has the exact same emotional weight as you see and hear when he's spelling his name for the camera. When I see this, there's always something wrong. Every time. Always. So the question was ambiguous and open from the reporter. And Stephen, I think is his name, could have said anything that he wanted to. When someone's in the situation and they have the floor and they default to the story of what happened from the beginning, which is potentially a story they made up for the police, this is one of the top 3 red flags you could ever see. The number one concern is the story which explains his innocence and not her disappearance or her return or her being found. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So emotions are expensive. They take up a lot of oxygen to get them going. There's a lot of respiration involved in emotions. In order to get that kind of action in his eyes and that kind of tonality, not quite being able to get his words out, it would take a lot of oxygen and carbon dioxide, a lot of respiration to get that going. His breathing rate is not up at the right level. Just immediately, the breathing does not fit a heightened emotion of any sort whatsoever. So it can't be a real emotion because they're expensive and he's not taking in enough oxygen and expelling enough carbon dioxide to support any kind of heightened emotion. So straight off the bat, I go, well, that's made up. He's making that up. He's acting that right now, and not well enough. Not well enough for me not to be able to see it. She was asleep most of the way, he says. I mean, I think that's odd behavior for a child. I've kids that are ill, will fall in them often, kids ill, just got in the car and they're asleep. Like, they're not, they don't want to go to school. They're making out that they're ill, or they're ill, and that's why they're asleep. Or maybe the journey's a 3-hour journey, and they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to make it that's a possibility. But from the description, it seemed to be a short journey. It just struck me as odd. The kid was asleep most of the way. I don't understand that. I'm not feeling his feeling because the breathing isn't enough. So he's got no empathy from me. And in this situation, if it were real, I should be empathetic. Even me, I would feel it, and I'm not feeling it at all. So again, another reason why, on an emotional level rather than just the intellectual level, that the breathing isn't right. On the emotional level, my empathy and my theory of mind isn't firing off. So there's stuff missing, definitely missing from there. And then he says it's hard not to blame myself. So he's focused on himself, whereas he should be focused on her. It should be nothing about him and blame for him. He should be focused on the search right now. It's all wrong. It's all Pete Tong. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I thought he was going to break into a Bee Gees song with that tone of voice, that little falsetto cry that he does. I'm just like, look, everybody knows that when you cry, you're indifferent to what people think of you. Real crying, you're snot-nosed, snotty-eyed, you don't care. I mean, if you ever see me cry, I won't care what you think. It's just the way life is. He's not. He's a bad actor I always call it going down the well to get emotion. What real people do when they're feeling emotion is they choke it back. They contain it. They don't embrace it and try to go into it and lean into it. And he's leaning into it, Mark. I mean, if you were coaching this guy, you'd say, the hell are you doing? That's not acting. So if you watch this guy, he's going down the well, he's finding something, and he's probably finding something to go down the well over, looking down into his right, recalling something that makes him feel emotion so he can pull up something. And even then he can't. It's really bad. His respiration, everything about it is bad. Chase, I'll give you another bad marker that I feel like there might be some collusion. When the bird interrupted her story, she started her story over because it's important I get the facts out. People don't do that when their kid's missing. They go, just get my kid home. I'll tell you all that later. How we got to here is a different story. But they do. They start, and it's like we were just saying, when we capture prisoners, there's things we call 5S, and one of those is separate. And the reason we want to do that is because I don't want Chase and Mark talking, because then I can't tell whose story is whose. And we separate those guys. It's separate, speed, silence, safety. Yeah. I know you're doing the same thing, right?
And segregate.
Yeah. So segregate is about moving them apart so that you get the chance to be able to talk to the person and get their story. And these people are both stories that start over right at the beginning when they get interrupted. That ain't a good sign, number one. He's got deep breath and emotionally eye accessing, probably trying to get that. But then he does this thing. Go watch me when we're talking to Tarek. That's not lip compression. That is disdain and disapproval and condemning all day. He does that almost every time he says something about this little girl. And you can't see it as much because of facial hair, but pay attention. He does that lip compression and he does a head nod or head shake. I don't think that is the confirming thing. And Scott, you're going to talk about in a minute. We'll say this is a counter shake. He's saying this when he's saying yes. Something is wrong. All this together creates a cluster. We saw her. He's back to the pronoun again, sharing those pronouns. And then when he's asked not much, she was asleep, his head shaking and lack of eye contact are bad sign. When he raises his eyes to make contact is something key to his story, is the only time he's going to do it. When you ask him a point, he'll do the other. And then when finally they ask him a question and he starts to do this, he entirely loses the whole head shaking or nodding. That was it. He goes, no, shakes his head like this. What the hell does that mean exactly? And you want to know. And then a single shoulder shrug as he says, not normal. Every word that he wants you to hear is punctuated with eye lock or romancer, as Scott and I would call it in the True Crime Workshop, but it's locking eyes. We just want her home. There's again a head nod, lip compression, and disdain. This guy right out the gate, you look at him and you go, boom, there's that. This guy has got nothing positive in it. He looks like he's storytelling. He's using that, again, team pronouns. So let's pay attention to him. Scott, what do you got?
Every woman watching this within the first 7 seconds went, he did it. Something's not right here. You got that feeling that told you something wasn't right, because even in that short little window of time, you picked up a lot of things.
I think that hindsight is 2020, and so everybody already knew. I mean, these interviews, I think, were like the day after him sitting behind the mom and like cracking his knuckles. Everybody, that was like weird off rip. But I think because we have a little bit of we know now he's arrested and all those things on the phone. I think the mother looked or acted a little bit more weirder than this guy.
That voice he's doing, that when he's talking really like something's wrong, that's coming from the diaphragm. It's not coming from constricted larynx. That's not what's happened there. It's not that constriction that makes your voice go up. I know this because having sang background vocals for years and years, and literally we would do 50 of the
Were you in the Bee Gees?
part. Yeah, I was in the Bee Gees. 50 of the low part, 50 of the mids, 50 of the highs, and then 50 of and these make these huge gang background vocals. That's how you do it. And that's what I would do every time. That's what everybody I know would do every time. And I know what that sounds like. And that's what he's doing. So that's fake. That is the worst I've ever heard somebody try to fake being sad. Is that's so bad. Right out of the gate, this whole thing is just full of odd behavior. So let's, like you were saying, let's pay attention to how many times we shows up in here. He says we dropped her off. Although the last time we saw her. So that tells me I think that mom might have been with him during all this. And Mark, the point about the sleeping that you were talking about, what they found out was that he had her in the car after she wasn't alive anymore, and had it looking like had her sitting up in the car driving her as he was going, and they have video of that. That's why he said she was asleep most of the time. So, and I just happened to watch a video about that. I was like, oh, that's more on that kid. Right. So that's what he's talking about. You didn't have that info, so you didn't know. But that's a good call, because why would she be asleep at that point? Then he says nothing. It was like it was an ordinary day. Everything else was normal. He didn't say except for it's not normal, because she wanted to be let off in a church parking lot. I understand how sometimes kids want to have their parents let them off when they're down at the end of the sidewalk as they walk up. That's cool. But being let off in a church parking lot way back there, remember when the mother said they couldn't tell if it was her or not because of the grainy video at the church? But then she said that was her. They could see her in the parking lot there, and she wandered off. That wasn't her. Obviously, it wasn't her. So these two have been talking about this. They're in collusion. She knows what's up. She knows what's happened here. She knows exactly what's happened here. That's why we're seeing all the fear and terror on her face. And he's doing this real quiet thing. This guy doesn't even move much. And the expressions we're seeing, that's not sadness, man, at all. He's trying to fake sadness. We don't see anything that shows, of course, he's got a beard, but you can see through those things. You can see the movements in there. We're not seeing those things we should be seeing, like you guys were talking about earlier. You can see the mouth move in there. You can see what's going on with the mouth, even though he has a beard. There are things that are going to show you that. These two are working together. These two, and it may not be out yet. So fellas and ladies, if you're watching this and you're working that case, heads up. Something's up here. I hope we're not letting this out of the bag so she starts protecting herself. But I don't think in this case, that guy's probably going to tell her anyway. He's probably going to, I would say. So something's up here. I think they're colluding.
Very interesting thought there. I honestly, when I saw this, but if I feel like if I had not known what this guy did, I would have thought mom looked sus off rip, and I kind of did. I don't know if I would have suspected him as much. It just seemed, even though it's fake, obviously clearly it's fake emotion. I guess an actor, maybe that's how he was able to pull off what he did for years. I still feel like that woman knew or suspected something. I think mom was way more sus than this one. And then the other interview, he was more sus. The other interview they did where he's just like sitting in the back, just like cracking his knuckles and stuff. And then at one point, I don't know what, that's how you know something was up with this guy too, I guess in that one. Something was just, he literally walked behind her while she's like doing the interview in the field of the camera, like it's this thing motion. Why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? And like, we're doing this important thing for the daughter, and you're like just being this weirdo. I mean, I guess maybe he just maybe I'm making something out of nothing. But I thought that was weird that I think he did it twice. And then, of course, just kind of hanging behind her. But then when the thing with him hanging behind, I just thought, I don't know, maybe he's just chilling there to pretend to be supportive. But it was just so odd the way he sat there. I don't know. I don't know, how much the mother knew. Where did the murder take place? It was early morning hours. Where did the murder take place? In the house? Because if it was in the house, then like, is there evidence? Any evidence in the house? Or was it after he left early with her and then did something?
I really do. Of course, this is just my opinion. It may not.
Hoax is intimidation. That could be it. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. That's what some people theorize. Intimidation. Maybe she's afraid.
Not be true, and it may not be valid and all that. It's just an opinion. So there you have that. Oh, and the part about where he does it, it's hard not to feel guilty. It's hard not to feel guilty because, oh my God, you guys, am I on mute? No? What's so funny?
No, we'd all done the lean in.
Yeah, you ruined our lean in.
No, I had my best lean in ever. Another thing. And another
I thought you guys were, I thought I was muted. And you guys were laughing.
My dismount was beautiful.
Oh, dude. I'll rewatch it, and here's what I'll do. I'll go back through and I'll choose a winner on this too.
All right.
He knew I knew.
All right. The first question is if I can get your first and last name and spell them both out for me.
Stephen Stearns, StephenStearns.
All right. So, Stephen, you seem very emotional right now. Explain to us.
I dropped her off. Everything looked fine when I drove away. It's the last time we saw her.
What were the conversations that y'all had in the car when you dropped her off?
Not much. She was asleep for most of the way. Told her have a good day at school when she got out. I love her. She said thanks, love you too. That was it.
And so where do you think she could possibly be? I mean, this isn't, as I was told, this isn't normal behavior.
It is not normal behavior. She's not the type that would just run off. We don't know where she can be. We're scared. We just want her home.
Are you, in a sense, blaming yourself?
It's hard not to.
Why?
I dropped her off early. I could have waited longer. She looked okay. She was walking towards the school when I saw her. It was like any other day, so I went on with my day. It's hard not to blame myself. It's hard not to blame myself.
What has the conversation been with Jen since?
She's been a lot stronger than me. She's been holding it together really well. And,
a lot stronger than me.
But it just keeps coming in waves. Just the reality keeps hitting. And we don't know where she is. We don't know if she's safe.
Yeah, the tissue thing too. No tears, but got the tissue going there.
We're just scared. We just want her home.
Have you, like, literally put boots on the ground, went out?
Yeah, I even went out with the cops where I had dropped her off. And we looked all up and down the road, all along communities, and there was nothing helpful. None of the cameras were pointing the street. Nothing, which in 2024 was surprising. The church across the street had some cameras, and they mentioned seeing her waiting around in the parking lot for a while before moving on, and that was it. But it was grainy. It was grainy footage, and not much else.
Does it seem like she walked west, east?
They said in the direction of the school. I'm not sure what that is.
What was the language? Not language verbally, language, body language. When you dropped her off, did she seem happy? Was she like, I'm going to meet my friends?
Happy. She had a happy weekend. She just turned 13. She had her 13th birthday party. She was happy that we were all together here. And she's just very happy. She was a happy kid. She's very sweet. She's a very sweet girl. She brings a lot of joy to us, and we just not knowing.
So the unknown is killing you.
Yeah, it's like our whole world is upside down. And not feeling her presence here is... Sorry. It's hard.
I know you're fine. No need to apologize.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah. So what's this guy doing? Searching for changing the floor? Because what he's doing is he's moving his eyes back and left, but back and right. And he is not making eye contact. And that means that the stuff he was doing in the last one where he was punctuating with his eyes even looks more suspicious now. I don't know where she is. If she is safe, he does a fake eye wipe with that tissue. And I put in my notes, even Murdaugh was smart enough to check his own self and make sure that he had a tear or not. This guy has no clue he doesn't. And there's none of that showing. It looks like he might have rubbed his nose before he came in and that to make him red. I even went with the cops. How magnanimous of you to go with the cops to find your own child. Come on. If this is your child or your partner's child, that I even went. That to me says something about what's in his head. The only key point he makes, again, he goes back to one of his key points. None of the cameras point to the street. Even more suspicious. We go back and look at the things he said. She was asleep. He's telling his story, and every one of those key points that he probably took out intentionally has that eye lock. If you go back and watch, you'll see it. Listen to cadence change as he starts the narrative of grief. So when I said earlier, people slow down because of grief, he's got it down. He does do the slowing down of grief. But when he gets into the story and he's giving the narrative, it disappears, just goes away. And he starts to lilt and tell his story. The guy asked a question. Everybody's going to say he said in past tense about she was, but the guy asked the question in past tense. He does say she was happy. She had a birthday party, but he said she was a happy kid. And then he shifts gears. And I think he realizes that he said it and he starts to clean up and say, she is. I would be really careful with a guy like this because I can tell this guy might be the kind of guy, we always hear people saying, we tell people how to lie. This guy may be the kind of guy who's been binge watching us for days because he knows he's going to talk to the TV. Because I think he probably thinks he's smarter than he is. And he also says, I did not feel her presence. It's hard not feeling her presence. And the mother says the same thing in an earlier interview. Language matters. And people, while they're partners and they do talk, most people don't have the language to talk about that because we don't deal with that in our lives. If you've lost somebody very close to you, you may use that language. But if you haven't, who walks around using those words? Most people don't. So this guy, look, we all know now he's been arrested for, and there was evidence against. And if you want to know about that evidence, go look it up. But there's plenty here to make you really want to dig further and ask a bunch more questions. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. Rather than saying, look, we miss her, we want her home, get her home, not feeling her presence here, that idea is usually reserved for the dead. So, yes. It's out of place here. I agree with you, Greg. We have the question is asked, what was she feel? What was her demeanor the day before? She was happy. Makes sense. What was it like the day before? She was happy. Then she was a happy kid. Okay, well, that's now a generalization in the past tense, and that which could be fine if it wasn't corrected to go, she's a happy kid.
Right.
So that does stand out for me there. And this last thing here is he hasn't looked at the footage on the video. There's an idea that there's some video out there where she is seen, but it's grainy in some case. If I was looking for my daughter, I'd be like, and I've seen that video and it's her, or I've seen that video and it wasn't her. I would have looked at that video because I would be going, I'm going to know my daughter better than anybody else. I'll be able to tell if it's her. I'll be able to tell if she's being followed. I'll be able to tell from a gate if she's happy at that point or not. I will have more information than anybody else if I can see that footage. He hasn't even looked at it from his description. Well, that's odd. That's odd. Even if he's guilty, if I was guilty, I'd be going, I want to look at that footage because I want to see whether what the hell's happening. What the hell's happening here? I want to see whether this is enough for me to go, yeah, see, that is her. That she's alive at that point. Yeah, not dead in the back of my car right now. That's her alive. Yeah, I would want an alibi out of that if I was guilty for a start. And if I was not guilty and I'm looking for my kid, I want to see that footage. He's not even looked at it. That is bizarre. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Y'all covered a lot here, and I agree. When he says it keeps coming in waves, reality keeps hitting, those are things you say after an event has concluded, after there's some certainty about the end of that event. And he's still injecting difficulty into the search with more finality in his tone. There's no real emotion, no tears, no facial expressions of grief, can't make eye contact during the critical times when it's reasonable to do so. And when the details aren't helpful or relevant, when a child's missing, parents who are innocent don't spend time on those details ever. Mm-hmm. So when you see a mountain of detail about everything that's just a pile of known facts, and then parents briefly skim over the fact that they want help finding the child or they want the child home, these parents need lots of attention, if you get my drift. So the acting here is pretty bad, but it's hard to fake wanting to find somebody if you don't want them found. And it's harder than acting on TV or movies because you have to pretend that everything is the opposite of the truth, not just a version of the truth. So that's why everything feels off here. So he mentions happy 3 times in this. Did y'all pick up on that? Like happy and happy and happy. That's something I would love to ask about if I was this reporter. And again, I wish the media would just download that PDF I put in the description down below. It's helpful, and it will help us to analyze your videos if you ever have to interview anybody like this again. Scott, what do you got?
Hey, before you go there, if you're watching this, you're welcome to contact us if you're getting ready for an interview like this, and we will help you go and ask the right questions. We mean that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get a hold of us. The Behavior Panel at gmail.com, and behavior is spelled BEHVHAVIOR. There's no U in there. And it's not behavioral. A lot of people think it's behavioral panel, but it's just the Behavior Panel at gmail.com. Email us. We'll hook you up to a fake prize. Why it's becoming sad and it's going away? It's because they can't make it stick. He thinks he's still making that face, or he's under the impression because he's trying to do that, but it just starts fading away. That's what we're seeing here. That's what lets us know he's not truly sad about anything. That little Mickey Mouse voice he's got going and that fake expression fading like that. He looks normal. He looks unbothered. If you just stop this and look at it, and it looks like he's looking for something. It's the oddest behavior for someone who's supposedly worried about somebody or has just experienced something where someone in their family or one of their close, someone they love is missing. That whole thing isn't right. You guys covered just about everything. So there you go. I'll leave it there. All right, Mark, you win that one.
I was the only player.
Nobody else is
with Jen since
She's been a lot stronger than me. She's been holding it together really well, and but it just keeps coming in waves. Just the reality keeps hitting. And we don't know where she is. We don't know if she's safe. And we're just scared. We just want her home.
Have you, literally put boots on the ground, went out?
Yeah, I even went out with the cops where I had dropped her off. And we looked all up and down the road, all along the communities, and there was nothing helpful. None of the cameras were pointing the street. Nothing, which in 2024 was surprising. the church across the street had some cameras, and they mentioned seeing her waiting around in the parking lot for a while before moving on, and that was it. But it was grainy. It was grainy footage and not much else.
Does it seem like she walked west, east?
They said in the direction of the school. I'm not sure what that is.
What was the language? Not language verbally, language, body language. When you dropped her off, did she seem happy? Was she like, I'm going to meet my friends?
Happy. She had a happy weekend. She just turned 13. She had her 13th birthday party. She was happy that we were all together here. And she's just very happy. She was a happy kid. She's very sweet. She's a very sweet girl. She brings a lot of joy to us, and we just not knowing.
So the unknown is killing you.
Yeah, it's like our whole world is upside down. Not feeling her presence here is... Sorry.
It's incredible, like the act that people put and on TV. Like, you agreed to this interview. I always wondered why people that end up being involved in some type of murder or whatever the situation is, why do they do these interviews, right? I don't know if they think they just can convince the world. Do they think that this helps them look innocent? Or do they just feel like, well, if I don't do this, it's going to look like I'm guilty, so I need to do it? I don't understand what the thought behind that is. And then you got the whole tissue shit going on here. Oh my.
It's hard.
I know you're fine. You need to apologize. What do you want our viewers to know when they see this?
She's a sweetheart. She's a very sweet, kind girl. Just please be nice to her. Bring her home if you find her. Tell her that we love her. Wherever she is, I hope she's okay.
I mean, if someone were to come in contact with her and you gave me her diagnoses, would it be easy to approach her without any like agitation or anything?
Yeah. She's a good kid. She's a good kid.
If you can sum up in one complete sentence, waking up, getting ready to drop her off at school, dropping her off at school, to now speaking to me after talking to the police about her being missing for over 24 hours right now. In one complete sentence, what would that be?
A living nightmare. It's a living nightmare. Day started off like any other. And I just want to wake up and just get hit with waves of the reality. Just it's setting in. As soon as it got dark last night, we started falling apart because we knew it wasn't going to come to an end. And now we're going on 24 hours and still nothing. Just conflicting reports here and there. People say they see this or that. None of it's conclusive and none of it's helpful. We just want our baby girl back.
Mike says, I think they feel obligated. I wonder if that's a thing, yeah, too. Like, maybe they feel obligated and that if they just stay quiet, don't do anything, they're already not, I think, we're part of the search. And so they just decline these interviews. Maybe they feel that the paranoia in their head, maybe they feel like it's going to make it look even worse if they don't. So maybe if they can come on TV and try to put on an act, maybe.
Common questions? No, I'm good. Thank you. Just get you hold up there for me.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, okay. So stronger emotions on this one. So, that could start to look in his favor because suddenly I start going, okay, bit of the breathing stronger, it's ramping up here. That would all be good if he wasn't shading his eyes so we can't see in them. So just as everybody's been saying, when you're having real emotions, real heightened emotions, most of which really can't last for more than 10 minutes. It's about the maximum that your metabolism can keep up. A really strong amount, even if like you're joyously happy, 10 minutes is about it, because you just run out of energy. You'll start to feel hungry, like you'll get depleted of glycogen from your liver. It's like you get, you get that kind of hollow feeling after a while, because it's just such an energetic drain. But you aren't concerned with what people think of those emotions. That's when it's great to see people laugh out loud, because it's like, wow, they don't care. It's so funny, they don't care. Same with crying out loud. The person doesn't care anymore about what people think of them. He cares. And that's why he's not letting you see his eyes. Bad actors are the same, really bad actors. They'll go for the emotion, and then they'll start looking away and start saying their lines into the floor somewhere. It's like, they don't want me to see that this isn't going well for them. It's not the real thing. So I don't buy it at all still. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, just a few things. Not one word to this girl. Not one word. When he's asked to say anything he wants, not one word to the girl. There's more no tears. He talks about her, when he does talk about it, he talks about bringing her back and finding her and picking her up like she's an inanimate object. Well, probably for a reason. Mm-hmm. And clearly he has said something to this reporter about her having something wrong, because he talks about diagnoses. So some kind of disorders, something, again, back to the mother saying ADHD. This guy's like pulling teeth. You're trying to get information, maybe you're like pulling teeth. And the interviewer even hands him exactly what to say. Says, if you had one sentence, what would you say? All that emotion, Mark, that I agree with you, it all shows up. Guess what? When it shows up is around him saying, we need something conclusive. This is not going to end. Those are not words that you expect. Conclusive, not going to end. Remember where I saw their genuine emotion in her in the very beginning was around waiting, conclusion, not going to end, not feeling her presence. Not a fan. Scott, what do you got?
All right. There's no upheaval of emotion anywhere in this. As people talk about these things, it'll start dawning on them again. There's a camera guy and there's an interviewer. They're talking to me about our child's missing or our loved one's missing. And you see this upheaval of emotion. We don't see that. We don't see many changes at all in his expressions, because emotions aren't real. There's no sudden panic. There's no realization of the horror that's going on in this situation. None of that. Zero. He just gets at one spot and just kind of glides right along right there. His blink rate's fairly low. It's not anywhere near as low as the woman's was, but it's fairly low. And then I think he's just parroting what he's heard other people say. I think he's just, bringing parrots back into this. I think he's just copying and saying what he's heard other people say in this situation who are actually missing someone. I think that's what we're hearing. He's trying to remember how to say those things. I think he's thought about it before. He's rehearsed it in his head, but he hasn't said it out loud. That's why it sounds a little so odd as well.
All right. Let's see what else they got here. It's already
so bad.
About to be done.
So bad. Chase, what do you got?
You don't need to be a profiler to look at this clip at all. So here's one tool you can use when the clip comes back on. What does a person default to when they're given an open floor by the media? You can answer most questions when it comes to missing persons announcement with just asking that question. What do they default to when they have the floor? Is it about returning her, asking for help? Is it about hopefulness of finding her in these critical first 72 hours when this video was taken? Is it asking the community to call the police if they see her? Is it emotionally making an appeal or help for assistance? Or is it about their own suffering, their own story, their own lack of sleep, and a very casual mention of wanting the child back, which is what we're seeing here? You'll notice he's saying they want her back with the same vocal tone, again, the same emotional content, the same behavior as when he spelled his name for the camera. That's all I got. Mm-hmm. We're not doing another video, so I was going to.
Well, I think it's great. It was great. I was laughing at Greg. Greg went head down.
All right.
What do you want our viewers to know
Last part.
when they see this?
She's a sweetheart. She's a very sweet, kind girl. Just please be nice to her. Bring her home if you find her. Tell her that we love her. Wherever she is, I hope she's okay.
I mean, if someone were to come in contact with her and you gave me her diagnoses, would it be easy to approach her without any like agitation or anything?
Yeah. She's a good kid. She's a good kid.
If you can sum up in one complete sentence, waking up, getting ready to drop her off at school, dropping her off at school, to now speaking to me after talking to the police about her being missing for over 24 hours right now. In one complete sentence, what would that be?
A living nightmare. It's a living nightmare. Day started off like any other. And I just want to wake up. You just get hit with waves of the reality just setting in. As soon as it got dark last night, we started falling apart because we knew it wasn't going to come to an end. And now we're going on 24 hours and still nothing. Just conflicting reports here and there. People say they see this or that. None of it's conclusive and none of it's helpful. We just want our baby girl back.
Tom, any questions? No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So that was pretty interesting, pretty good. Behavior panel. I'll put the link to their channel. I think everybody knows them, but I put the link to their channel in the description. They provided this treat of content. And yeah. Amazing. The next stream that I have scheduled is at 7. Audrey Cunningham's family did an interview, but we could squeeze another stream in between if you guys, I don't know if you want to push it. The bar fight, there's finally an update to the bar fight. This is a trial that we covered, I don't know when, months ago. It was about this fight where this guy gets, I don't even know if he got, did the punch even hit him? I think he got punched, and the guy pulls out a gun and shoots the guy and kills him. John DeLee. I think there was like some victim impact statements. Let's see, how long is this? Okay. All right, so I think it's about what? No, I get to take a break or something. Let's see. Take like a long extended break. I mean, we could probably squeeze this in. What do you want to do? You want to squeeze in put a final chapter on this story? I'm gonna need your help though, because I got no notifications on this channel. So that's if you guys are gonna come. Let's see. Okay. Push it to the limit. Limit. No, push it to the limit. Ryan Garcia. At some point, we'll probably update it. I don't know. Ryan Garcia will visit it again. There were some of the crazies who were a little upset that I didn't buy into the narrative. But we'll visit him. He posted some tweets last night talking about Diddy, which is kind of funny. Diddy and stuff. But then he deleted it. He made like, I don't know, like 6 posts and shit. And then he scrubbed it. Deleted it all. I don't know if he deleted it or somebody grabbed his phone and said, shut up, get back in your, on wherever. Maybe he deleted it. Maybe he came to his senses. Scrubbed this thing again. So hope he gets help or trains for the fight or whatever. Hope he stays focused. Let me make up the new stream right now. I already have a thumbnail ready to go. Yo, man, he's just telling the truth. Push it to the limit. Bar fight. New stream. I forgot what the charges were. I don't know if he was getting murder or what. John DeLee's sentencing. The bar fight gone bad. All right, I'm making the stream now. I don't think I have notifications, so I don't want to use one up for this. So it'd be good to do it now. All right, we're going now. Are you ready? I'm going to set up the redirect. Oh, the other thing that happened too, I don't know when we're going to have time to do it. That mother that shot her own daughter, she testified. I want to watch her testimony, and she was also sentenced today. The trial's already over. I'd like to see her testimony. I want to see what happened. Anyway, I'm going to put the link in the chat in case it doesn't teleport you. But hopefully you get teleported. I'll see you.